Chapter 2306, Breakout, 7. Brother, do you think her action is considered a theft? If it should belong to me, right? Princess Yuan looked at Di Fui with a pitiful gaze. She would have tugged the edge of his sleeve if she could. Di Fui took a glimpse at Gu Shijio and noticed that she was standing still. It was evident that she refused to compromise. The odds were not in her favor at this moment since she picked a fight with the princess of the Devil Kingdom. Since Gu Shijio was just a foreign ordinary person in the Devil Kingdom, why would the people speak for her? Was she insane to continue? Perhaps, she thought that Di Fui would speak for her because of their relationship in the past? Furthermore, he was the Devil King, so anything he said would be followed. Di Fui took another glance at her, but she did not look back at him. She probably only looked at him once since he arrived. It seemed that she did not intend to ask for his help this time. He was somewhat upset by this and responded icily, since the animal was sold, it should belong to the buyer. Yuan's eyes sparkled as she looked at Gu Shijio arrogantly. Finally, Gu Shijio raised her head and stared at Di Fui. Her lips were slightly curved upward as if she was going to say something sarcastic. It also made it look like she knew that he would side with her and was simply waiting for the confirmation. Her facial expression made Di Fui uneasy. He clenched his fists inside his sleeves. Meanwhile, Yuan quickly took the opportunity to add to Gu Zijia's misery. Did you hear that? Our king is always fair. So what do you have to say for yourself? Give me back the little Xieji. We shall then decide what punishment you should receive for breaking into my residence. She raised her hand to instruct the guards to catch the Xieji. The little Xieji was busily biting the universal net to free its little master. It got frightened as it heard Princess Yuan's orders and then immediately ran toward Gu Shijio and hid behind her. Gu Shijio lowered her head in disappointment, but she was certainly not surprised that he would side with Princess Yuan. After all, she was his savior, his godsister, and his lover. Nevertheless, she could not deny that it hurt. The bigger her hope, the larger the disappointment. Alas, Di Fui looked at her facial expression again while the guards were slowly approaching the creature. She looked pale, but somehow he could sense a hint of sarcasm behind her smile. Di Fui's heart ached at the sight of what he was doing to her. Suddenly he twisted his earlier statement. However, what Hua Shiyue said was not absolutely unreasonable. After all, she owned the creature, so it makes sense for her to look for it, especially since she was not the person who sold it. Gu Shijio nodded. You are right. Things will be slightly easier since Devil King recognizes this object. This is the conversation I heard today at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It is quite interesting. Let's continue our discussion after listening to it together. Instantly, Yuan's complexion changed. 3 o'clock was the time she was having a discussion with Servant Yi. She certainly did not want anyone to hear that conversation, especially Di Fui. She immediately rushed forward with the intention to grab the audio talisman from Gu Shijio. Why is this important now? Let's get the matter of Xieji resolved first. Gu Shijio was well prepared and avoided the princess. She then chuckled sarcastically. Do you feel guilty and scared, princess? Do not worry, this is also about the little Xieji. We are still talking about Xieji. Swiftly, she switched on the audio talisman. A conversation between a master and a servant was clearly heard. Is it done? Rest assured. Everything is done. I didn't expect Luo Zheng to be so sensible. He took less than half of the portion and even gave the child to us. He has left the devil world, so we do not need to kill him. Chapter 2307. Whose child? Did you manage to get the information of his companion, Hua Shiyue, who is the owner of the Silver Wolf? According to Luo Zheng, he and Hua Shiyue had met each other not long ago. You can rest assured. Since Hua Shiyue is a businesswoman, she should not be a high-ranking person. She left the child and the Silver Wolf and went missing for so long. Perhaps she has gone to see her lover. I heard the doorman say that she came to our house to inquire about the child and wolf and was rushed away by the doorman. With her ability, she will try to find Luo Zheng to interrogate him. However, Luo Zheng has left the devil world. After he got the 50,000 magic coins, he ran away. It should be challenging for Hua Shuyue to find him. Even if she takes 3 to 5 years, she may not be able to find the man. She naturally cannot come to us to look for trouble too. Well, that is good to know. Princess Yuan continued to comb her hair. They are among the lowest level people in the outside world. You don't have to worry about them. In fact, I think we should not give a single additional cent to him. After all, these are not his possessions. Princess Yuan's lips were curved upward. Well, since he is so sensible, just give him a reward. I don't care about these 50,000 devil coins. The dialogue in the voice recorder spell could be heard by everyone and repeated the conversation between Princess Yuan and Servant Yi. Every sentence was clear. The crowd naturally went speechless. These conversations were the proof she needed. It proved that after this pair, master and servant, had their eyes on the silver wolf, and bought it forcibly. They also wanted to kill Luo Zheng so that the original owner of the silver wolf, Hua Shuyue, would not find them. It also proved that the allegation that Princess Yuan imposed on Gu Shijio was completely false. The statement that she and Luo Zheng colluded with each other to deceive Princess Yuan was simply nonsense. Obviously, they were the ones who schemed on Gu Shijio. Countless eyes stared blankly at Princess Yuan and her servant. Although many bad things had happened in the Devil Kingdom, the princess seemed to always carry a positive image. However, that seemed to have collapsed in an instant. Fake. It is fake. This is not true. She imitated their voices to deceive us. Princess Yuan's beautiful face had turned pale. She never imagined that there was such a trump card. She was certainly not prepared for it. No wonder Gu Shijio screamed earlier to gather a crowd. She was waiting for this moment. This girl was really good at scheming, and the princess actually took the bait. She wanted to grab the voice recorder spell and destroy it, but Di Fui was standing there. If she went to snatch it, it would make her appear to be guilty. Therefore, she made up her mind to simply refuse to admit it. She claimed that the other party was making trouble and faked the voice recorder spell. Brother, she deliberately faked it and accused me. Brother, you have to help me. Yuan was nervous and wanted to pull Di Fui's sleeve to beg him. As expected, she failed to touch him. Di Fui just took a step back and avoided her hand. She still could not really get close to him. She flashed a sight of resentment in her eyes and then looked at Di Fui with tears and a pitiful look. Gu Shijio smirked. Fake. She then looked at Di Fui. I remember that the Devil King has the skill to distinguish between real and fake spells. You can check if the sound in this voice recorder spell is genuine or fake. She lifted her hand and threw the spell to Di Fui. Di Fui could only accept it. Gu Shi smiled again. Princess Yuan, the Devil King is the brother who loves you the most. He will only favor you. He will not even accuse you. Thus, the result of his identification must be true, right? Princess Yuan remained silent. She couldn't refute this statement. Nonetheless, Di Fui was silent. He felt as though a needle repeatedly stabbed his heart. Chapter 2308. Whose child? 2. He looked at Gu Shijio again. She kept a smile on her rather emotionless face. The crowd could not really understand what was going on in her mind. She spoke up. I request that the Devil King be truthful and fair. Out of respect, she had referred to him as the Devil King. However, it sounded as though she had let go of any feelings for him. Di Fui's fingers tightened under his sleeves. He smiled and responded, I didn't expect you to remember my ability. He did have the ability to access the authenticity of the recorder spell, but he rarely used it. It had only been used once or twice in the upper bound. Furthermore, it was never used in front of her, and only a few people knew of it. He had also never used it in the Shura world, so he did not expect her to know it. Gu Shijio smiled. Please help to clarify the situation. Everyone turned their eyes to Di Fui, waiting for him to give a verdict. Di Fui put the recorder spell on his palm and a white light exuded from it and covered the recorder. After a while, Di Fui calmly said, This voice recorder spell is genuine. Hence, everything it played earlier is true. Everyone was stunned. When they looked at the Princess Yuan, They felt as if the image of their idol had collapsed. Instead of switching it off, Di left the spell on his palm. There is still a lot of content on this recorder. Since it has already started, let us listen to the full conversation. Brother! Yuan shouted in a trembling voice. She started to beg, I made a mistake and I know that I am wrong. Please don't play it. Di could not care less at this point. He continued listening to the remaining recording. The Devil King is pampering you so much. He seems to give you anything you want. Therefore, it is expected that you do not care about these 50,000 devil coins. You have done an excellent job in this case. I am very happy, so this cream is a reward for you. Princess, only you can have the capital to use this cream as skincare. This small bottle requires a significant amount of herbs to produce. The Devil King has been very good to you. You talk a lot of nonsense. What I said is the truth. By the way, Princess, since it seems that the Devil King really wants to be married to you, when will you accept his proposal? It is not easy to get someone who loves you so much. Although you have to be reserved, don't let the Devil King wait for too long. I still want to test him. As long as he is sincere, I will fulfill him. It was a very common conversation between the master and the servant, but once it was released in such a public manner, Yuan wanted to find a hole to hide inside so badly. She secretly peeked at Di. He remained calm and expressionless, and he did not make any judgments for the time being. However, he seemed to have put on a smile. He really pampered her a lot, but that was because she had saved his life. He only treated her as a sister. He gave her enough materials and also ascended her to a noble status so that she would no longer suffer as how she used to do. Since when did he give her the impression that he would propose to her? It was such a joke. He did not even love her, so how could he propose to her? It would take a lot for him to fall in love with someone. He only proposed to one person before. Unfortunately, that person rejected him. Chapter 2309. Whose child? 3. The voice recorder continued to play. Alright, Prince. I understand why would you buy the little Siege, but why did we grab the child as well? The child is still young and knows nothing. He only knows how to cry. A few caregivers found it difficult to manage him and could not stop him from crying. It is really annoying. Princess, since you did not care about the 50,000 devil coins, why would you ask me to kill Luozheng? Is it because of the child? I can't see what is so special about this kid to make it worth your while to get him. You know what? I really did not intend to hurt anyone. No one would say anything if we forced Luozheng to sell the silver wolf. However, we can't force him to sell the child, right? Therefore, I plan to invite him to our house so that it's easier for us to make a deal with him. Anyway, I did not expect Luozheng to be so sensible. He actually passed the child to us willingly. Well, if he was not sensible, he would be dead. He would not get the 50,000 devil coins and escape from the devil world. So, what's so special about this child? The child feels strange to me. It is not an ordinary child. It seems that the little Siege listens to him. Maybe he is the real master of the little Siege. With the child in our hands, we don't have to worry that we can't train the little Siege well. The voice recorder's spell finally finished playing. The truth of this case was revealed to the public. When the surrounding devils looked at Princess Yuan, their stares were full of disdain. Although the devils did a lot of bad things, they were quite friendly to children. Yuan might not be criticized if she did something else, but once she targeted a child, it was bound to be hated by the public. Princess Yuan deeply regretted her actions. If she knew that Gu Shijiao had such a plan, she would not even have hunted her down. Sadly, there was no medicine for her to eat to change the situation, and there was no place for her to hide at this point. She found it difficult to stand straight. Her cheeks were now rosy as she looked at Di again. Brothers, it's my fault. I was confused for a while, but I didn't hurt anyone. I like the little Siege so much. Di did not seem to pay attention to her. He had many questions, but there was one that was more important than the rest. Where is the kid? Di interrupted her and asked. Princess Yuan looked at the universe net. That net had been hidden behind Gu Shijio. As there had been too many things that happened, Princess Yuanyuan could not regain possession of the net. Gu Shijio actually wanted to open the net, but she did not have the time, and she did not know how to open it. Di Fui looked at Princess Yuanyuan and finally he understood. His facial expression changed as he shouted, angrily, "Bitch! How can you use this net to capture a kid?" He definitely knew the power of the net. Even if it was an adult, he or she would have been injured badly. And now it trapped a kid in it. He did not ask anything else but lifted his sleeve. A white light emerged and cut through the net. After the net opened, it exposed the little doll who was trapped inside. Di Fui took a glance, and his fingers trembled. The child looked 2 to 3 months old. He was fair and looked to have soft skin. He looked adorable. The baby's eyes were closed, so Di Fui did not know if he was still alive. Di Fui dashed over to the child as he wanted to check on him. Chapter 23:10. Whose child? For Gu Shijio was 1 step faster than him. She held the child in her arms and then teleported a few feet away to avoid Di Fui. Di Fui was speechless. "Let me see him. I can treat any injury caused by this net." Di Fui trembled as he took 2 steps forward. Gu Shijio did not care about what he said. She quickly checked the little guy. It was bizarre. The little guy was indeed trapped in the net, but there was no injury on his body. He seemed to be clean and tidy as well. He was really asleep. Gu Shijio breathed a sigh of relief. She patted the little guy's face. "Hey, wake up, wake up." The little guy moved and slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Gu Shijio, he cried loudly. Gu Shijio quickly patted his little body. "It's okay, you are safe. Don't cry. A man must be strong. You can bleed but you must not tear." The little guy stretched out his small arm and placed it around her neck. "I am only a baby boy. I am not a man yet." He spoke very softly. But this small baby could actually speak. The onlookers were shocked and opened their eyes widely. Di Fui heard him speak as well. He was shocked but also relieved. The child, whether crying or talking, was full of strength and was apparently not injured. Di Fui's eyes were always on the child's face and seemed to have locked them there the entire time. This child must be his son. The timing was just right. He had been separated from her for more than a year. He never expected to have a child with her after only 1 night of intimacy. He cursed his spies. After all this time, they did not even hear about her pregnancy, and she had to raise the child alone. If he knew about this child, he would have rushed to her side to guard her. Even if she had someone else in her heart, if she was willing to give birth to this child, it proved that she also had a place for him there. After all, she was the one who came looking for him. However, he had pushed her away. He regretted his action. Princess Yuanyuan and her servant were also in shock. When they took the child from Luozheng, all they heard him do was cry. He did not speak at all. Gu Shijio was still worried and wanted to untie his little robe to examine him further. However, the little guy grabbed her finger. When she looked at him, his face seemed to be red. "I didn't get hurt, you don't have to check." Was he shy? An ordinary baby may not even understand the idea of being shy, but this kid was not ordinary. Nonetheless, Gu Shijio was relieved that he was fine. She looked up and saw Di Fui standing right in front of her. She subconsciously thought of taking a few steps back, but he grabbed her wrist. His palm was hot, and his gaze was tense. Let me see him," Gu Shijio frowned. She looked at Di Fui and knew that he had misunderstood. She took a deep breath and spoke, "You don't have to check on him. He has no relationship with you." How could he have no relationship with him? Her child was his child. He was the father of the child, and this is one of the most significant relationships that the baby could have. Di Fui took a deep breath. "Shijio, don't be angry, he is my son anyway. You can blame me, you can't erase my relationship with him." Chapter 23:11. Whose child? 5. Gu Shijio felt as though she was having a headache. "Devil King, you really misunderstood the situation. This child is not my son." The little doll held her neck and shouted, "Mom! You don't want me anymore?" Gu Shijio was speechless. She wanted to throw this kid out. The baby then looked at Di Fui and asked curiously, "Is he my father?" "How don't simply make assumptions. He is not your father." Gu Shijio corrected him. The little guy was well behaved. He answered, "Oh." His arms on Gu Zigius were even tighter now. "Mom, you came to the devil world to look for my dad, right? Where is my dad?" Gu Zigius' headache was worse now. How could she answer his question? She had no idea who was his dad. All of a sudden, her arms suddenly went empty. The child was carried away by Di Fui. "Hey, I am your dad. You don't have to look for me anymore." With big round eyes, the baby asked, "Are you my dad? Are you? Mom doesn't even recognize you." Di Fui smiled and responded confidently, "She will recognize me sooner or later." Gu Shijio was speechless. Why would she recognize him? The little kid was not her son, anyway. This was much messier than Gu Shijio had imagined. The people around them were shocked too. Does the Devil King actually have a child? Was this woman in front of him his lover? What about the princess? Referring to the dialogue in the voice recorder spell, it sounded as though the Devil King had proposed to the princess and was only waiting for her to agree. What was going on now? Was this woman a secret lover of his from the outside world? Were they forced to be separated because of the poor relationship between humans and devils? It seems as though she came here with his child to look for him. However, the Devil King did not recognize her. The princess took this opportunity to get rid of Gu Shijio and the kid but did not expect the king to arrive in time and finally accept the lady and their son. The curious people in the crowd had already thought of the whole story. They all turned their eyes to Princess Yuan Yuan for her confirmation. Yuan Yuan looked pretty pale. She stood there and looked as though she was a statue. She looked a bit pitiful. Gu Shijio heaved a sigh and tried to explain, "Devil King, you have really misunderstood. This child was adopted by me, and is not my actual son. Please return him to me. I still have other things to do. I have no time to fool around with you." Her ribs were still hurt. If she were not such a resilient person, she might have been rolling on the ground by now. She removed her disguise and just wanted to take the kid away and recover as soon as she could. The crowd noticed that the child's appearance was similar to Gu Zigius. There was also some similarity to Di Fui. It looked clear to everyone that he was their child. Besides, he could already speak at the age of 2 to 3 months. He had to be the kid of someone very powerful. Di Fui answered casually, "You adopted him? You're really good at adopting then. If that's the case, then this child has nothing to do with you. I can't return him to you. Since he can stay in the devil world without wearing special attire, it proves that he belongs in the devil world. This child has excellent qualities. I will teach him personally, and I will be able to make him a top talent." Chapter 23:12. Whose child? 6. Gu Shijio was speechless. How could she give up the child so easily after working so hard to get him back? It seemed that Di Fui had identified this little boy was his biological son. At this point, he would probably be in denial and refute everything she said. How convenient would it be if there was a test to check one's true association with a child in this world? It was evident that Gu Shijio was annoyed by what she witnessed. Since this child really had nothing to do with him, why should he be allowed to keep him? She teleported to him and grabbed the child. "Return him to me." Di Fui was prepared. He dodged her hand and replied with 2 words, "No way." Cold sweat started dripping from Gu Zigia's forehead as she touched the wound on her ribs. It was so painful that her eyes turned red. The sorrow in the heart was surging again. She took a step back and coldly said, "Wow, I never knew that the Devil King has a tendency of taking away someone else's child. Well, since you have better skills than me, I will hand the kid over to you. I don't want him anymore." Since he was willing to raise the kid, this would make her life much easier. She turned and wanted to go, but her wrist was once again grabbed by Di Fui. She turned back and said, "What do you want?" "Don't leave." Di Fui's dark eyes looked at her sternly. Even for this child, Gu Shijio was even angrier now. He only wanted her to stay because of the child? Wasn't he the one who wanted to be separated from her? Wasn't he on Yuan Yuan's side? Did he not bully her in public? In his heart, she was not as important as the child. When he realizes that the child did not belong to him, was he going to push her away again? Perhaps he would even blame her for being despicable enough to use the child to stay with him. Di Fui, you are not thinking straight. When she said these words, her eyes were red. I said, this child is not yours. She desperately pulled her hand away as she did not want him to hold her anymore. He should go and hold Princess Yuan Yuan's hand instead. Due to the immense force that she used to pull away from his grip, more blood started to ooze out of her wound, and more sweat started to pour out from her forehead. Although Di Fui had been in close proximity to her, he was rather distracted and did not notice that she was struggling with her injury. But since they were very close right now, he saw the cold sweat on her forehead. His heart trembled, and his hand immediately moved to her wrist. After a little test, his facial expression changed. Damn, you are seriously injured. Why are you still moving around? Don't you want your life anymore? Where is the injury? While still holding the child, he said, come with me first, I will heal you. No way. She could also heal herself, and her medicinal skills were much better than his, so she did not need him to recover. Regardless of the pain, Gu Shijio slid away and avoided him. No need. Let me go. Hey, I promised you. Save me. The first two sentences were meant for Di Fui, but the two sentences seemed to be for another person. Di Fui found it rather odd. Due to the surprise, he did not have time to react when a shadow had flashed in front of them. Someone separated them and laughed. Devil King, since she is not willing to go with you, why should you force her? Chapter 23:13. Punishment. The person in between them wore a green bamboo robe. There was a colorful butterfly mask on his face that revealed a pair of sparkling eyes. He seemed to have been born with a broad smile on his face. In his hand, there was a goose feather fan, which made him look like a master. He was the bamboo man that Gu Shijio bumped into earlier. The man seemed to put Di Fui in a difficult position. If he did not let go of Gu Zijia's arm, he would probably have broken it. Therefore, Di Fui could only let go. Gu Shijio took the opportunity and pulled a distance away from Di Fui to stay away from his control. When the bamboo-robed man appeared, almost everyone held their breath. It was actually him. He actually came out of hiding to care about other people's business. This bamboo-robed man was a strange man in the devil world. He did not like to fight for power, but his skill was very high. He also knew many different skills that other people had never heard of before. The people here used to call him Mr. Zhu. When the devils of the world were fighting for power, they wanted to get his support to win. However, they soon realized that none of them could acquire him onto their team. As they were worried that their enemies would end up getting his help, they actually sent people to kill Mr. Zhu. Unfortunately, everyone they sent to execute the task had never returned. The henchmen did not disappear but were hanged in the bamboo forest in the devil world. They were swinging like dried bacon on the branches. It actually frightened a lot of people, and after that, no one dared to kill him anymore. They just let him be in the devil world. As long as he did not cause any trouble, things would be fine. When Di Fui fought for power in the devil world, he naturally heard the name of this strange man. Nonetheless, he ignored this man and told his subordinates not to provoke him. Therefore, Mr. Zhu, who had always been a treasure by the other devil kings, had been ignored by the new devil king. Mr. Zhu went to find Di Fui once. It was said that Mr. Zhu was very interested in this new king and wanted to challenge him to a duel. Di Fui was not interested in him at all and never accepted his challenge, so Mr. Zhu had been ignored by him until now. This person was considered a freak. He did not easily come out of the bamboo forest, and any forest he inhabited became alienated. In fact, the bamboo would typically look mutated and dry, while Mr. Zhu still remained green and fresh. He was very protective of his territory. Once anyone entered the area, he or she would be used by Mr. Zhu as fertilizer. The devils in the city were all very afraid of him. They tried not to go around the east of the town so as not to provoke him. Occasionally, the people would see him in a tea house or restaurant in the city. Because he was dressed very uniquely, most people could easily recognize him. His presence here quickly made the crowd uneasy. The guards quickly surrounded their own masters and waited for instructions while the people generally took a few steps back. After he made such a high-profile appearance in public and said such a sentence to Di Fui, he waved his sleeve, and there was a door that appeared in front of Gu Shijio. Gu Shijio into the door and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Di Fui was speechless. When the door appeared, he went forward quickly and tried to pull Gu Shijio. However, Mr. Zhu had expected him to take this move. Chapter 23:14 Punishment 2. Mr. Zhu laughed and blocked Di Fui's way. He shot a palm to Di Fui's chest. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, the direction of his palm was toward the child in Di Fui's arms. Despicable! Di Fui would not let him hit the child. He dodged the attack, and at the same time he turned over his palm to hit the attacking party. Pack! A loud sound was heard when the two palms collided with each other in the air. Both of them stepped back at the same time. Ha! I am so happy today. I finally forced you to fight with me. If you believe in your capabilities, come and chase after us. Mr. Zhu laughed as he retreated into the magic door. The door looked very antique and was green in color. When it appeared, it looked like the eyes of a lover, sparkling to tempt people to enter. The devils thought that their devil king would step in without hesitation. They did not expect him to stand there with his child. Inside the door, Mr. Zhu could be heard chuckling. Don't dare to chase after us? It seems like the devil king only wants the kid but not the mother, Di Fui faintly replied. She doesn't want to stay by my side anyway. She even agreed with your conditions and asked for help. You guys settle the agreement yourself, I don't want to be involved in it. Ha! You are really the devil king. You are cruel enough. Mr. Zhu chuckled and did not say anything anymore. The door disappeared into thin air, and the crowd could only smell a hint of bamboo in the air. Everyone wondered the same thing as Mr. Zhu. It turned out that the devil king only asked the mother to stay because of the child. Since the child was now with him, the mother was not important anymore. Also, they now confirmed that the devil king and Mr. Zhu did not have a good relationship. Furthermore, since the woman had so willingly agreed to leave with Mr. Zhu, she obviously did not think highly of the devil king either. Perhaps, what she had with the devil king was just a one-night stand. It probably meant nothing. The only relationship she had with him now was the child. Princess Yuan was initially concerned that Gu Shijio and Di Fui would get back together. However, her hopes slowly grew. She approached Di Fui in 2 steps, looked at the child and smiled. Brother, he is your child? It is no wonder that he is so smart and clever. Brother, rest assured, your child is my child, so I will pamper him very much. Before she could finish her sentence, she shut her mouth, because Di Fui stared at her fixedly. His stare was cold and his smile looked cruel. My child is your child? Does he need your care? Princess Yuan's face went pale. She slowly stepped back and could barely smile. No. This is actually a bit strange, but when did I propose to you? The onlookers that had intended to leave decided to stay put after hearing that sentence. Yuan's pretty face blushed. I did not say so. It's my servant. My servant is the one who claimed so. She simply betrayed her own servant. Chapter 23:15 Punishment 3. Servant Yi was scared and quickly kneeled. Devil King, please forgive me. Di Fui ignored her. Princess Yuan's pretty face turned pale. Servant Yi was not only her confidant but also her left-hand man. She was loyal to her, and she certainly would not want her dead. She stepped forward. Brother, she tried to beg for mercy from Di Fui. Di Fui looked at her with a faint smile. But, do you want to dispose of your own servant? Well, I can let you get rid of her for me. Yuan, don't disappoint me. His remarks seemed to have a hidden meaning. Princess Yuan bit her lips and did not know how to respond. Servant Yi bowed at her feet and begged, Princess, I know that I am sinful. I will change. Before she could finish her sentence, she was choked. A sleek sword pierced into her chest and stabbed through her heart. She widened her eyes and looked at the princess whom she had been loyal to. Her eyes were full of shock and disbelief. Yuan Yuan was very close to her at that time, and she whispered something beside her ears. "Please rest in peace. I will treat your family well." Servant Yi slowly fell to the ground. She twitched a few times and then stopped moving completely. She was actually an orphan, so she had no family member that needed to be taken care of. Princess Yuan Yuan removed her sword from her servant's chest. The blood from her servant's chest spurted out and even got on her eyebrows. She rubbed it with her fingers, which were trembling slightly. After all, she personally killed her most loyal servant. It certainly made her feel uncomfortable. She looked up and saw Di Fui standing not too far away. One of his hands covered the baby's eyes as he looked at her faintly. Princess Yuan Yuan suddenly remembered that the former celestial masters never had any limits. Some of his actions were extremely cruel. He could kill people while talking or laughing. Even though she was very fond of him, she was also very afraid of him. It was only in the past year that he had been very good and gentle to her, which made her forget about his previous nature. "Brother, it's my fault. I was not strict enough with my servant. I have already disposed of her." Di Fui smiled. "I thought you would have let her go. After all, she had always been faithful to you." Yuan Yuan was shocked. Tears rolled down her cheek. "It was terribly difficult for me to do so. But she made a big mistake. I can only, Di Fui smiled. "Yuan Yuan, you have always been good and treated other people well. I handed her to you to give her a chance to live. I did not expect you to kill her." Yuan Yuan was stunned. The crowd also found the situation difficult to digest. Everyone initially thought that she was terrible for cheating the businesswoman out of her animal. It seemed like she was just acting out of jealousy, which was still reasonable and forgivable. Prior to this, they always thought very highly of her. They did not expect her to kill a loyal subordinate so easily. Although Servant Yi was wrong for gossiping, it was clear from their conversation that Princess Yuan Yuan had given her a false illusion of the actual scenario. Otherwise, the maid would not think that way. If they were to judge the situation, it was clear that this princess had made an even bigger mistake, but the servant was the one who got punished to death. Chapter 23:16, Punishment. 4. What she did was, nevertheless, unkind. The people of the Devil Kingdom made no further comments, but deep down in their hearts, they started to lose respect for the princess. Even the princess servants retreated. They wanted to stay as far as possible from her. Di Fui took another look at her. "Yuan Yuan, who am I to you?" he asked calmly. Yuan Yuan, with her head dropped, said, "You are my brother." Di Fui acknowledged with a firm nod. "So you do know that I am your brother. Therefore, you should know that your wishful thinking is all in vain." Embarrassed, Yuan Yuan's face flushed crimson. "Yes," she answered with a hoarse voice. She was so embarrassed that she wished she could just bury her head in the ground to avoid any judgment. "For almost a month, you took care of me and saved my life while I was in great danger. Thus, I vowed to repay your kindness by taking care of you as if you were my own sister. I wanted to keep you safe and free from all sufferings. I cared for you, but only as a brother to a sister. I wanted to repay your kindness for all the care that I received when I needed it. That is all." "Yes," Yuan Yuan answered, red-faced. "It is all my fault." Di Fui disregarded her apology and focused on the baby in his arms. The baby looked at him with an intense gaze with his watery eyes that glistened in the light. Hesitantly, Di Fui was still deciding if he should punish Yuan Yuan fiercely. The innocent look in the baby's eyes changed his mind about the severe punishment. He did not want the baby to see his dark side. Thus, he just wanted to leave. All of a sudden, the baby let go of his palm and revealed a red scar that was seemingly caused by strangling. The baby pointed toward the wound and said, "Pain." The baby said appealingly while giving him a miserable gaze. Di Fui recognized the scar immediately. It must have been caused by the universal net. Irritated, he quickly treated the baby's injury while questioning the integrity of one of his men. "I gave you the universal net for you to use against people who have committed great offenses. Have I ever told you to use it against an infant? The man was one of Di Fui's trusted people. Princess Yuan personally requested for his assistance. When the princess servant came looking for Di Fui's help, he was unavailable, for he had secluded himself for cultivation. The servant panicked, claiming that the princess' residence had an unfortunate encounter with theft and that the princess was concerned that she might not have enough men to secure her residence. Thus, she requested for the Devil King's trusted men for assistance. Since the request was by the Devil King's most beloved sister, the man did not hesitate to send an entourage of 8 loyal courtiers to assist the princess, along with the universal net. The princess had personally requested for the use of the universal net. Hence, he let her use it, unquestioning. That was how the tragedy started. He had made a huge mistake that almost cost the life of the young infant. The offense was too great for him to bear. Disgusted by the prince's shameful conduct moments before, he certainly did not want to bear the fault on her behalf. Therefore, he told Di Fui everything as it happened. Attentively, Di Fui listened to the courtier. Panicked by the revelations, Yuan kneeled before him as she explained, "Brother, I did not intend to harm the infant. The net was intended to be used against Hua Shuyue. It was a mistake." With a squint, Di Fui gave her a tight smile and said, "Nonetheless, Yuan, you have to know that the net has indeed injured Hao Heir, regardless of your intention. As precious as he seems, he is also the young prince of the Devil Kingdom. To be fair, you should be punished for what you did to Hao Heir." Princess Yuan was anxious about what was coming. She took a step back and asked with a trembling voice, What kind of punishment?" "The same as what you did to Hao Heir." Di Fui raised his arm to command the universal net. Briskly, the universal net rose and covered Princess Yuan from above. Unfortunately for her, she did not possess the same talent as the baby. While the baby was able to stay unharmed in the universal net, she, on the contrary, had to suffer the pain, which felt like being stung by countless needles all at the same time. Chapter 23:17 Punishment 5. Thousands of needles pinpricked every inch of her skin. The tremendous pain was certainly unbearable, and soon she started squealing in pain. Di Fui paid no attention to her. Instead, he turned to the courtier and started questioning the man. "I have told you before that the universal net should only be used against dangerous people and that it could never be in someone else's hands. I also said that if you disobeyed me, you would be beheaded. Did you really think that Hua Shuyue is someone dangerous?" "No, she is not. I have let you down, sir. I shall call upon death to myself for what I have done," the man said firmly while trying to slice his neck with the sword in his hand. Swiftly, Di Fui flicked the sword away from his neck. "You have always been loyal to me. For that, your life is spared. Instead of your life, leave an arm and go. Never repeat the mistake, or I will not let it go so easily." The man kneeled and bowed before Di Fui for sparing his life. Without hesitating, he cut his arm off as his punishment. The punishment acted as a deterrent to the others. All the other men in his troop were frightened and swore to never disobey the king's command, even to the slightest bit. Before Di Fui left, he gave Princess Yuan, who was still crying for help in the net, a quick look. She will stay under the net, for the same amount of time she did to the infant. Let her go when the time is up. Yes. Di Fui thus left, along with the baby in his arms. No one dared to go against his order anymore. For 20 solid minutes, Princess Yuan never stopped crying for help, while struggling in pain. When she was finally released, she became so weak that she could not even stand. In the Devil Palace, Di Fui was looking intensely at the baby on the bed. Their eyes met. Di Fui looked pensive, as if absorbed in thought. The baby, on the other hand, looked as innocent as ever. He seemed like a good and obedient baby. After a while, the baby finally broke the silence. "Aren't you going to look for my mother?" Smilingly, Di Fui asked, "Is she really your mother?" The baby hesitated. "Why do you ask?" Di Fui answered calmly, "I have checked her pulse. It did not show any sign of her being pregnant. Obviously, she did not give birth to you. Now tell me, who are you? You knew it from the beginning, and yet you took me away from her." You even claimed that I was your son and the precious prince of the Devil Kingdom. He regarded Di Fui's conduct with a sigh. With a tight smile, he continued sarcastically, "What do you think?" The baby answered hesitantly, "You were using me to get the attention of your opponent, weren't you? You acknowledged my identity and showered me with affection so publicly. It was all an act to mislead your opponent that I am all you care about. You used me to distract the crowd from thinking of Princess Yuan, didn't you?" Impressed, Di Fui looked at the baby in disbelief. Gently, he rubbed the baby's head and said, "What a smart baby. I like you. If you behave, I will raise you like a prince." The baby tilted his head to avoid Di Fui's hand from touching him. "You are only trying to use me. What a wicked man. The only person that you truly care about is my mother, right? As a baby with a dubious background, you are concerned for her safety, that I might harm her at every opportunity. You took me away from her just to keep her safe, didn't you?" Di Fui examined him and started to doubt if the baby was really a baby. He clearly outsmarted the grown-ups. Yes, she clearly has no guard against children, especially adorable ones, like you. She will definitely do her best to fulfill your wish, even at the expense of her own safety. Therefore, it is better for her that I keep you by my side. Di Fui knew Gu Shijio very well. When he was still a child, he managed to lure her in with his irresistible cuteness and made her do anything that he wanted. She sent him home and gave him little presents. Eventually, she even fell for him. The same tactic should not be repeated. He would never let anyone enjoy the same privilege that he had. Di Fui started judging the baby, who was clearly adorable but could potentially be an embodiment of some wicked monster. He remembered that his own father had the strange habit of transforming into a baby every once in a while. Hence, the baby could merely be a transformation of someone strange. Are you being too petty against a baby who cannot even walk on his own? The baby said innocently. Am I? Di Fui acknowledged his remark with a smile. All of a sudden, he lifted the baby and released him mid-air. Unsteadily, the baby fell onto the bed and almost hurt his head. He tried to turn his body around and gazed at Di Fui in disbelief. What are you trying to do? He questioned. Was Di Fui trying to torture the baby as a means to vent his frustration about his lover running away with another man? Di Fui did not know what to say. Honestly, he thought that the baby was only pretending that he could not walk. How old are you? Di Fui asked while crossing his arms. The baby snuggled his head comfortably on the pillow and closed his eyes in response to his question. It is hard to tell, the baby answered nonchalantly. Try me, even if it is hard to tell. Di Fui insisted. The baby sighed. One shall not talk about heavenly secrets. Di Fui was speechless. Frustrated, he clenched his fists while trying to calm himself down. He had many ways to make someone spill the truth, but none were friendly. His conscience told him not to torture a baby. It was very rare for Di Fui to reveal his soft-hearted nature. After spending a year in the Devil Kingdom in which he encountered many ferocious battles, Di Fui's heart was now hard as a rock. The pain made him grow. In the past year, he had encountered more challenges here in the Devil Kingdom than all the time that he had spent in heaven. In order to get to where he was today, he had to go through a reign of terror. Many immoral tactics were used. Lives were lost. The more he pursued his power, the more relentless he became. He was cruel, and in order to win, he did anything necessary. Many were cruelly treated, however, he could not find the will to mistreat this baby. The baby noticed his hesitation and seized the opportunity. He held his sleeve in a tight grip and looked at him with eyes full of sincerity as he reassured, Don't worry, I am nothing but an accidental discovery. I will do no harm to both of you. Instead, I wish you all the best. Di Fui looked at his tiny hand and was surprised. As he grew up, he did not like anyone to get too close to him, not even his closest servants. The only people whom he was not disgusted to get close with were his parents, Gu Shijio, and now, the baby. Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. Di Fui constantly covered his body with a wizardry barrier. No one was allowed to get too close, except for the ones that he trusted entirely. When he was severely injured and almost unconscious under the attacks of the wild wolves, it was only his wizardry barrier that the wolves were tearing away. Right before his wizardry barrier was torn apart, Yuanyuan's sudden and unexpected arrival saved his life from the wolves. Although he could barely recall the whole incident, he was sure that Yuanyuan was not able to get too close to him either, for he was still covered in his wizardry barrier when he woke up. For a while, he was curious about how Yuanyuan carried him all the way into the Devil Kingdom under such inconvenient circumstances. He asked her about it, but she only looked at him with a face full of grief. Chapter 23:19. Whose child is he? 2. Yuanyuan told Di Fui that she had to carry him with the puppet strings that she created. When they were finally in a safe place, she got a carriage and transported him into the Devil Kingdom. Most of Di Fui's injuries were internal, and fortunately his body had the special ability to heal itself. Hence, Yuanyuan did not actually need to nurse him back to health. She was physically by his side, but could not do anything as she was not able to get any closer. Di Fui remembered looking at Yuanyuan the moment he woke up and saw how relieved she was that he was awake. She wanted to treat his injuries and take him to the doctor earlier, but all her intentions could not be realized because no one was allowed to get close to him. By the time he was awake, most of his injuries had already healed. Yuanyuan offered to help, but he refused. After all, he could heal himself. In fact, that happened at an accelerated pace once he woke up. Yuanyuan once complained about his habit of not letting anyone get close to him. Even his closest men told him so, saying that they would not be able to save his life in times of danger if he insisted on keeping the boundary that pushed people away. He knew that the habit would one day cost his life, but he could not help it. The only thing he could change was his strength. The stronger he was, the lower the chances that he would get injured, or even killed. It was truly fortunate for him that his special physique had granted him the ability of self-recovery. Despite being in many battles, there were only 1 or 2 instances where he was really on the verge of losing his life. As he continued to observe the baby, Di Fui realized that the infant shared the same unique physical condition. He certainly was not ready to trust the little kid, but hand in hand, they looked rather harmonious. He had thought that the baby was his son at first sight. Could that be the reason why he was not disgusted by the baby's touch? Quietly, Di Fui continued to observe the baby. With eyes full of hope, the baby fixed his eyes on Di Fui as well. He tried very hard to show him the sincerity in his heart. After a while, Di Fui broke the silence by raising a question. If you cannot tell me your age, what about you start with your name? How The baby answered without any hesitation. What is your surname? Di. You can call me Di Hao. The name sounded like it belonged to a noble lineage. Di Fui could not believe that the baby actually shared the same surname as him. Could he really be his son? Di Fui knew that he only had one romantic encounter with Gu Shijio, during which time, Gu Zijia's body showed no obvious signs of pregnancy. Therefore, the child must be someone else's. Over the brief conversations with the child, Di Fui realized that he knew some terms from the modern era. Had he traveled through time to be here? His own mother and Gu Shijio were people from the future. They were only here because they could time travel. Could the child be one of them as well? How could there be so many people who came from another period? His fingers reached out and started reading the baby's pulse to examine his condition. Unbelievably, the baby turned out to be a rare talent with an excellent physique. Also, his spiritual power was already at level 8 at such a tender age. The baby was almost as good as him during his childhood. Di Fui initially suspected that the baby was only pretending to be young. Perhaps the little kid was trying to deceive the people around him. However, he realized that the body structure of the baby clearly showed that he was only an infant of 2 or 3 months. To Di Fui's surprise, the baby did not seem to be uncomfortable being examined. It seemed that he wanted to let the man have a better understanding of him. Di Fui stopped reading his pulse after some time. There was usually nothing he could not predict, but this child turned out to be an exception. There was no way of determining his origin. The baby stared at him in silent admiration. "Father!" he called out loud. Awkwardly, Di Fui trembled as soon as he heard the baby. Do not simply address me as your father, he swiftly rejected. The baby seemed confused. What about, uncle? The baby carefully offered an alternative. Chapter 23:20. Whose child is he? 3. Di Fui said nothing. Senior. Di Fui made no remark again. I cannot possibly address you as my brother, can I? It sounds disrespectful. Shocked, Di Fui finally reacted. You can address me as your father publicly. In private, you can address me as the Devil King, Di Fui instructed. He did not want to hear any more nonsense from the child. To his surprise, the baby responded righteously, My mother has yet to call you her husband, so I refuse to call you my father. She is not your mother. Yes, she is. She said it herself. Di Fui then teased, No, she did not. You were the one with thick skin, who insisted on following her around. She was too lazy to argue with you. Nevertheless, I know that she cares for me and wants me around. She is the one who gave me my name. If you had not taken me away, I would still be with her, the baby spoke confidently. Did she name you as Di Hao? Di Fui's eyes flickered with hope. He could not believe that she named a child that she found in the wild with the same surname as his. Delighted, he could not hide his smile. No, she named me Hao Heir. I am the one who gave myself the surname Di. I thought that it sounded very graceful and noble, suitable for someone who is both intelligent and powerful. The baby's explanation crushed Di Fui's hope. The smile on his face instantly disappeared. Your Highness, when do you plan to let me see my mother? Will you believe me if I said that I would never let you see her again? No, you will not do so, the baby said confidently. Your Highness, you are still counting on me to deliver your messages to her. Di Fui seemed confused. To deliver my messages? The baby gave him an adorable smile and said, Indeed, you are not someone who is keen on explaining yourself. However, you chose to talk so much before you punished Yuan Yuan and explained the entire incident so thoroughly. It was not only for the common people's understanding but for me as well, right? Continue, Di Fui demanded. The baby thus continued, You are indebted to Princess Yuan Yuan, as she was the one who saved your life. You would forgive her, eventually, for all the tolerable mistakes that she made. However, she had clearly challenged your limits this time by plotting against my mother. The one that she intended to torture with the universal net was actually my mother. She even tried to ruin my mother's reputation. What you did was to give her a taste of her own medicine. She had to suffer the same entanglement in the universal net, thus bringing ruin on herself. Di Fui gave him a frown of disbelief before answering, You seem to know a lot. However, there was another reason for her punishment. What was the reason? The baby was eager to know. Do you know anything about Yuan Yuan's background? The baby shook his head. I am afraid not. I only know that she is good at the puppeteering technique. Does she have another identity? Di Fui tapped the table gently in contemplation before answering the baby. She used to be the wife of the governor of Luo Hua City. They used to refer to her as Yun Qing Luo. The baby was utterly surprised as he exclaimed, She is married. That explains why you never liked her. Di Fui gave him a gentle knock on his head and reminded him, It has nothing to do with whether I like her or not. The baby rubbed his head in protest while waiting for Di Fui to finish his story. Di Fui looked away and seemed a little depressed. I am not an ungrateful man. She saved my life. For that, I shall repay what is needed. Her identity is rather unique, as she is partly the reincarnation of Yun Yanli's sister. She used to be one of his greatest forces behind the mess that the Shura world has encountered today. The marriage between her and Yi Ling, the governor of Luohua City, was not genuine. She was only there to manipulate Yi Ling under Yun Yanli's command. I know about it all. Chapter 23:21. Whose child is he? 4. The baby was astonished to find out about Princess Yuan Yuan's other identity that no one knew. Yun Yanli possesses a very wild ambition and regards me as his greatest enemy. There will surely be a battle between us sooner or later. Honestly, I once suspected that she was an undercover agent that Yun Yanli sent to spy on me after finding out who she used to be. After all, the price that she had to pay in order to save my life was too huge of a commitment for an utter stranger. There must be a reason for her sacrifice, but I could never know why, as she refused to share. Perhaps she has indeed fallen for you? The baby responded almost instantaneously. Di Fui rejected his assumption. I am very sure that it was only our first encounter when she stepped in and saved my life. She is not stupid. Why would she risk her life for a stranger that she had not met? Perhaps she had already fallen in love with you in heaven. You do know about women. Once they fall for a man, they will always step up their game and do something illogical. The baby assumed. I carried out an investigation only to find out that she was born in the Shuro world about 200 years ago. How could she possibly fall in love with me in heaven? I see. If you have done a very thorough investigation, then there is nothing else to say. Perhaps she was trying to achieve something by saving your life. Di Fui shook his head and added, I know that something else must be going on. However, she did save my life. As long as she stays within limits, I can always tolerate her minor misconduct. In fact, I do want her to enjoy being a princess and be blessed with a safe and comfortable life. I gave her anything that she asked for to repay her kindness. If she had not misbehaved, I would protect her for the rest of her life, making sure that she was safe and well respected as the kingdom's most beloved princess. When the time comes, I would even find her a good husband and bless her with a happy marriage. The princess really should not have challenged Di Fui's tolerance. Had she not been so wicked, Di Fui would not have unmasked all of her conspiracies so publicly. The baby was getting more comfortable as they chatted on. Excitedly, he added, I can see that you are not a bad person. You wish to repay others' kindness, and you seem to be really nice to Princess Yuan Yuan. Smilingly, Di Fui teased while giving him another gentle knock on his head. Silly, there is no concrete line between a good man and a bad man. I am not a good person. In fact, no good man will be able to get to where I am today. I am only a man with principles. You have repaid her kindness with kindness. What she had to endure today was all her fault for provoking someone she should not have. She certainly has to suffer the consequences. By the way, what do you plan to do with her in the future? House arrest with food and clothing. That is all, Di Fui answered nonchalantly. She was the one who saved his life. The death penalty was too severe for what she had conducted. Therefore, putting her under house arrest was the best he could do. Princess Yuan Yuan's servants were already disappointed in her. More than half of her kung fu was greatly reduced under the torment of the universal net. Once she was confined, she would no longer have the power to condemn any violence of any sort. She was as fragile as a tigress with no teeth. She would no longer be a threat. The baby fixed his gaze on Di Fui as he made an assumption. You have been very patient in your explanation. You are counting on me to convey the messages, aren't you? Di Fui was speechless. He decided to remain silent as he focused on the baby's added explanation. My mother will not believe in everything that you say. If you have to explain everything to her, there is a chance that she refuses to believe it. The outcome would be different if I was the one who talked to her. If she knew the truth, she would probably forgive you, and both of you could end up being together again. Di Fui did not know what to say. He began wondering whose child is he? He was incredibly smart for an infant. After lying down for a while, the baby was getting a little bored. He moved his little arms and legs in an attempt to turn his body around. With his back now flat on the bed, he continued to ask Di Fui, My Devil King, you have not actually got over my mother, have you? Are you trying to win her heart again? Di Fui was convinced that the child was a mind reader who knew exactly what he was thinking. He took out a bottle of wine and presented it before the baby's eyes. Little one, I am surprised to know how well you know me. Your company makes me want to feast. I can drink far more than usual with you. The baby's eyes flashed with excitement. I will have a small glass of wine, please, he requested while reaching out his hand. Slowly, Di Fui took 2 different wine glasses out. One was filled with wine, while the other was filled with a glass full of juice. He handed the glass over to the baby and offered weighty advice. You are too young. The alcohol will damage your brain that has yet to develop fully. It will be a waste of your talent if you become an idiot overnight all because of the wine. The juice is a better option. The baby did not argue. Therefore, the grown-up and the baby started to chat freely, each with their preferred drink. Di Fui used to spend much time and thought on the things that he should do in the Devil Kingdom, where every step he took posed a great risk. Thus, he never told anyone how he truly felt. The baby, however, made him feel comfortable enough to share his thoughts. I have thought about giving up. Di Fui began his story while taking a sip of wine. Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. The baby took a sip of his juice, too, while waiting for Di Fui to continue his story. Di Fui held the glass tightly in his hand. His eyes were dim with a sense of helplessness as he added, I like her, so much that I feel like I am going crazy. However, she has already given her heart to another man. For the past 200 years, she had never stopped searching for him. She is much older than me, so for a very long while, I was only a child to her. A forced smile appeared on his face. No matter what I did, she only treated me like a child. I was very frustrated by the setback. After that, she was punished by the heavenly law for violating a heavenly secret. She was forced to descend to the lower bound. After a long, painstaking search, I finally found her in the Shuro world, only to realize that she had completely lost her memory. I thought fate had granted me a chance to win her heart. Therefore, I told her that I was her fiancé, and she believed it so easily. I only wanted to stay by her side, so we could save her people and venture through the unknowns of the Shuro world together. I wanted to make her fall in love with me. To my surprise, we had an unplanned night of romance together. He took another sip of wine to help him reminisce. When we were together, she could not recall anything about us. Instead, the memory of another man started to surface. She asked me about the man while her face beamed with delight. It was then I realized that our relationship was not built on trust because what I had told her was a lie. Any sort of external factor would crush our bridge easily. I knew that she was going to find out about the truth someday, but I did not expect the day to come so soon. Her anger was within my expectation, but she told me something that I can never let go. The only man she truly loved was Huang Tuesday. It had never been me. She even told me to stay as far away as possible from her. He continued with a rather guilty conscience. To her, I am nothing but a wretched who lied to her while she had no memory. She must be very disgusted by my mean trick. Is that why you gave up? The baby interrupted. Di Fui swirled the wine in his glass and sighed. What else could I do? I do not want to be in the shadow of another man. I do not want to be a substitute. His father once told him that if he truly loved a woman, he should let go of all constraints and do everything to win her heart. But could he? Chapter 23:23. Whose child is he? 6. His mother, on the contrary, told him that only if a lady was single and emotionally available was he allowed to go and win her affection. Otherwise, it would be better for him to let her go. If the lady had indeed fallen for another man, he should walk away before it was too late. His mother had even told him an example based on her personal experience. She told him about what happened between her and Shuilan. Shuilan used to be her closest courtier, who was obsessed with her. She, however, fell for Shinjioli instead, thus kickstarting a series of disputes. All three of them were forced to deal with one another for 3 centuries. Shuilan did not intend to let her go and chose to stay by her. However, her heart already belonged to another man. Eventually, she married Shinjioli. Shuilan, however, ended his life miserably in ashes and sorrow. 3 centuries of tireless pursuit became entirely fruitless. His mother was still guilty about Shui Yilan's miserable end, but there was only guilt in her heart and nothing else. The only one that she truly loved was Shinjioli. Shui Yilan's love for her was destined to be hopeless, from the beginning until the very moment of his death. He would not even stand a chance in his next life. Di Fui did not want to repeat Shui Yilan's mistake. If there were no way that he could win her heart, letting go would be his best option. Certainly, he was unwilling to let her go, for what he had for her was true. The baby took a large sip of juice while still lying flat on his back. "Are you prepared to let her go now?" he finally asked. Di Fui gave him a quick look and sighed. "I wish you were really her child." The thought gave him some hope. At least, he was able to convince himself that she cared for him enough to give birth to their baby. However, the baby was not their child. He was only a boy that she found in the wild. Di Fui was terribly depressed by the unreturned love. At the thought of his desperation, he took another large sip of wine to ease the pain. Apologetically, Di Hao followed him and took a large sip of juice. He then questioned Di Fui, "Aren't you worried about her safety?" After she got injured, a man dressed entirely in green took her away. "I still think that the man is wicked. What if he takes advantage of her while she is weak?" Di Fui was not concerned about that. "Don't worry, he is not that bad. He is just a curious man. Your mother promised him something in return for a favor. They must have some secret deal going on. I believe that he will not harm her in any way. It is hard to say. Lust is irresistible. My mother is a very beautiful woman who is adored by many. Once she reveals her true beauty in front of the man, he will definitely fall for her." In addition to his good looks, he was there by her side when she needed help the most. Perhaps she would fall for him at the most unexpected moment. Unconvinced, Di Fui rejected the possibility. Your mother only remembers Huang Tu, a love that is deeply rooted in her heart. If she was able to change her mind so easily, he would not have gone through all the torment. He would have gone all out to win her heart. The baby continued to indulge in his glass of juice. Even if you are sure that she would not change her mind about someone else, you cannot be sure that the man would not do anything against her will. After all, she was severely injured, so she cannot possibly defend herself against him. You know that she is no longer a virgin. The man could easily assume that she was all right with having one-night stands since she had made love with another man. Di Fui was utterly shocked. He could not believe what he had just heard. The child was way too matured than he should be at this age. He must be the reincarnation of some great man. Stubbornly, Di Fui waved his hand to dismiss the baby's thought. The little kid understood the message and finally stopped making any more assumptions. He stared at Di Fui instead. Di Fui carried him and examined the quality of his soul right away. The result showed that the baby was genuinely just a little infant. His body was not possessed by some other old, wicked spirit. "Little one, you know a lot of things." Di Fui then put him on the bed and pinned him down with one hand. With his other hand, he proceeded to place some pressure on his acupuncture points. "Come, let us talk. What else do you know?" he interrogated with a sarcastic smile. The baby struggled under his grasp. Quietly, he pursed his lips into a thin line and said nothing. The baby acted very innocently and gazed at him with his big, bright eyes as if saying that he was only a baby who knew nothing. He was not going to tolerate any threats. If he had to, he would cry out loud. Di Fui tried to think of a better way to confront the baby, but it was a problem he could not solve. He ended up ignoring the baby entirely and enjoyed his wine alone. The baby continued to observe him for a brief period. After a while, he recited a poem, "Your discontentment will not be worked off by drinking." He then added, "No amount of drinks will get you her heart." Di Fui's hand trembled at his surprising remark. He almost spilled his wine. Before Di Fui moved, the baby quickly added, "Please do not seal away my verbal acupuncture point. I will now keep quiet." Soon, he continued with another well-thought question, "Aren't you going to save my mother? She is probably waiting for you." Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. Di Fui remained unconvinced and gave him a sarcastic remark in return, "Waiting for me? I believe that she doesn't even want to see me. After spending some time with her, have you even heard her mention my name?" The baby did not know what to say. She had never spoken of Di Fui in front of him. He did not want to lie, so he confessed, "Actually, I have not spent a lot of time with her." Furthermore, an outsider, Luo Zheng, was usually around. In other words, he admitted that Gu Shijio had never told him anything about Di Fui. Di Fui seemed to understand the implied meaning in his words. He shook his head to dismiss the discouraging thoughts in his mind and decided to change the topic of discussion. When Luo Zheng gave you away to Yuan Yuan and her servants, did you tell him to do so? The baby looked at him with admiration as he said, Your Highness, you are indeed a quick-witted man for making such a smart guess. Di Fui continued slowly, Gu Shijio always knows when one is a good friend or not. If she did not trust Luo Zheng, she would not have handed you and the Xie Ji over to him. Also, Luo Zheng did not seem like a cowardice man. He must have done so under someone else's guidance. With a sigh, the baby agreed. It is true. Luo Zheng is not entirely bright, but he really is a gentleman. I knew that he would definitely be killed as soon as he arrived at the princess residence, so I had to make an analysis and explain the consequences to him in advance. He was clearly shocked when I uttered my first word. I had to warn him first so that he would not look startled. I told him to do as I said, but he refused, saying that he would not go against the promise that he made to a friend. I told him that if he refused to do as planned, he would still be unable to keep Xie Ji and me safe. Additionally, he would lose his own life. If he agreed to do as told, he could, at least, stay alive and earn some quick money, 50,000 devil coins. If he was really sorry, he could always wait for my mother's return on the outskirts of the Devil Kingdom and return the coins to her someday. Di Fui threw a quick, judgmental look at him and said, You really are an old, crafty rascal. The baby corrected him, Judging from how tender I am, you should have called me a child with the guts to create great mischief. The man and the baby continued to chat for a while. Almost an hour later, the baby was finally impatient about Di Fui's choice not to save his mother. Hastily, he urged him to leave. Your Highness, I really think that you should check on my mother, even if you have to do so from a distance. You should know that women tend to say things they don't mean. Di Fui sat with his face clasped in his hands. Why should you be worried when I am not even concerned? Are you the reincarnation of a matchmaker from heaven? Honestly, I am starting to question your intention. Hesitantly, the baby explained, My intention? Perhaps my real intention is to ascend the throne as the next Devil King. My status as the prince will only be secured when both of you are well and in love. Di Fui was speechless. Delighted, he rubbed the baby's head and said, As you said, I have made you the prince to serve as a distraction to my opponent. If she really cared for you, she would not let you become the prince. You should not be so positive about your present status as the prince. The baby hesitated. At last, he kept quiet. Di Fui took a look at the hourglass in the corner of the room and realized that it was almost midnight. It was almost time for him to go. He then performed a spell to secure the baby under a wizardry barrier. Behave yourself. Do not make a mess. I will only be away for a while. Swiftly he left. The baby heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps Di Fui was only waiting for the right timing. The baby honestly thought that he would not go at all. Then he heard Di Fui giving orders to the guards at the door. Keep a close eye. If I find anything missing in my room, you will bear the consequence for it. His men took his words very seriously and continued with their duty. The baby had a bitter smile on his face. Was Di Fui worried that he would run away? There was nowhere he could go. He took a look at his tiny arms and legs. With a deep sigh, he could not help but curse. Damn it. He never expected that he would come into the world in the form of this tiny human. Forget about running away. There was no way he could even walk properly at the moment. For now, patience was what he needed, as he would be stuck in this form for quite a while. The hook-shaped moon was high up in the clear night sky. Within the eerie, peculiar bamboo garden, Gu Shijio found herself reclined comfortably on a bamboo chair. Blankly, she stared at the moon. She was not someone who would shed tears in an air of melancholy or sob every time she took a bad knock. She lay quietly on the chair, not because she was sad, but because she could hardly move at all. Every inch of her body was frozen. She could only move her eyes. The wound, which was caused by Princess Yuanyuan stabbing her in the ribs, was not very deep, but the pain was unbearable. Under normal circumstances, injury from a weapon with a dangerous poison would not hurt so much. It would either become numb or terribly itchy. The color of the blood would be the only noticeable difference, as it would change from red into either black or dark green. Nonetheless, the wound that she suffered was unusually painful. Oddly, the blood from the wound was still red instead of black. Moreover, she was still able to run or even fight right after she was stabbed. Therefore, she assumed that the wound would not be a big deal. The poison that was applied to the weapon would only cause her an immense amount of pain, but would not cost her life. Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. She thought that the wound was nothing serious, so she waited until she was finally free to apply the medicine. To her surprise, it was not as easy as she had thought it would be. When she retreated into a hidden door, the man in robes of bamboo prince offered her an entry into another space, where she found herself in a sea of flowers blooming with an array of colors. Once she got to her feet, she looked into the distance and could still see the oddly structured green door. She could even hear the sounds that came from the other side of the door. She heard about the confrontation between Mr. Zhu and Di Fui. Then, Mr. Zhu took a leap and joined her in the garden. Chapter 23-26. You are badly injured. He steadied himself next to her and challenged Di Fui, who was now on the other side of the door. Don't dare to chase after us? It seems like the Devil King only wants the kid but not the mother, Di Fui faintly replied. She doesn't want to stay by my side anyway. She even agreed with your conditions and asked for help. You guys settle the agreement yourself. I don't want to be involved in it. He sounded very firm and decisive. Gu Shijio could feel her heart shattering into pieces. Everything that happened was clearly within her expectation, but hearing the words from him personally was more hurtful than she thought it would be. Mr. Zhu saw her expression. Then, he teased Di Fui with a sarcastic laugh. Ha! You are really the Devil King. You are cruel enough. Mr. Zhu chuckled and did not say anything anymore. With a wave, a glimpse of green light flashed by them. Soon, the door disappeared. Are you hurt by his heartless reply? Mr. Zhu asked. Gu Shijio did not want it to look like a joke to him, so she answered nonchalantly, I already saw it coming. I am fine. Mr. Zhu then noticed her pale complexion and exclaimed, You are badly injured. Her complexion was as pale as a sheet. If it were otherwise, I would not have agreed to your terms, Gu Shijio responded with a hint of sarcasm. While she was busy dealing with Di Fui, Mr. Zhu never stopped sending her directed audios. He offered help in exchange for her time. She was asked to stay by his side for 10 days and teach him the facial disguise technique. Gu Shijio ignored him at first. She completely disregarded his boisterous requests. Fueled by her indignation, she finally agreed to Mr. Zhu's terms. It was all because of one impulsive decision. The moment she stepped into the door, she regretted her decision a little. Then, Di Fui's words changed her mind. She only regretted that she was not able to take the child with her. She was worried about the safety of the baby. When Di Fui finally found out that the little infant was not his child, she was afraid that he would send the baby away into exile. Even without the paternity test, Princess Yuan still remained a threat to the baby too. She was such a horrible woman. Once she was married to Di Fui, she would then become the baby's stepmother. Gu Shijio was worried that the baby would not be well taken care of by his new parents. Therefore, she was determined to get the baby. Temporarily, she had to stay with Mr. Zhu in order to treat her wounds. For the next 10 days, as agreed, she would teach him how to utilize the facial disguise technique. When the time was up, she would then go and save the baby. However, things changed very quickly when she finally noticed the severity of her wound. She had to ask Mr. Zhu for some privacy in order to check the wound on her ribs. The pain was as bad as the sting of a scorpion. Instead of being swollen, the wound was actually a display of 5 variant colors in red, black, green, yellow, and white. The vivid display spread out around the wound, making it look like a blossoming flower of varied colors. To her surprise, her blood looked normal. Also, There was not a lot of blood from the wound. When she first got hurt, the pain drove her to check the wound. She was relieved to know that the blood was still red in color and thought that it was nothing serious. Little did she know that she was actually poisoned by some kind of poison that she had never seen before. She tried to suppress the pain while squeezing out the blood around the affected area. She also had to take some antitoxin pills to drive out the remaining toxins in her body. Chapter 23-27. An utter state of misery. Gu Shijio tried to ignore the pain and squeezed out the blood around the affected area. She had also taken some antitoxin pills to help drive out the remaining toxins in her body. Relieved, she noticed that the colors were slowly fading away and believed that the toxins were finally clearing. She then joined Mr. Zhu, who had been standing aside to give her some privacy, and followed him into the bamboo garden. All of a sudden, a tingling sensation and numbness in her limbs caught her attention. She could feel her blood vessels slowly coagulating. She knew that something was not right. Mr. Zhu, once again, walked away to give her some privacy. Quickly, she checked the wound and was surprised by the spread of vivid colors around the affected area, stretching across her skin like tendrils. The toxins sprawled along her vessels and coagulated the blood that flowed within, thus numbing her muscles. Obviously, her condition had worsened. On the back of her hand, there was a 5-colored tendril inked across her skin like a vivid tattoo. Mr. Zhu carefully observed her condition for a while, but still had no clue about the type of poison that had entered her body. He was a keen learner who was intellectually curious about the use of poisons. The odd colors of the toxins managed to catch his attention, so he eagerly participated in the search for a cure. He started offering many methods to help Gu Shijio get rid of the toxins in her body. She had to deal with the misery of her inability to control her movements. Like a laboratory mouse, she had to swallow a few different doses of medicine that he kindly offered in an attempt to target the toxins. Unfortunately, her condition worsened, which proved that none of the medicines actually worked. About 2 hours later, the tendrils were already well spread all across her limbs. The gradual deterioration finally set her into a complete paralysis on a bamboo chair. Mr. Zhu continued to search for a cure, but all his trials in the past hours had proven to be ineffective. He began to panic when Gu Shijio finally lost her ability to move. There was no time for more trials. Perhaps the only way to obtain the cure was to find the source of the poison. Determined, he quickly went to see the princess, leaving Gu Shijio alone. In her deep contemplations, Gu Shijio was certainly fed up with the constant miseries in her life. However, she was not ready to die. She wanted to save herself. Although she could not move her body, she still had control over the flow of the spiritual power in her body. Forcibly, she tried to drive away the toxins using her spiritual power. When she was stabbed, the pain was only concentrated around the affected area. Nonetheless, as the toxin spread, the pain also followed suit. Other than her scalp, there was pain everywhere in her body. She imagined that the pain was similar to slicing every inch of her flesh open. The pain was unbearable. She felt as though her body was being literally torn into pieces. Cold sweats broke out all over her forehead. Furthermore, she remained conscious throughout the entire struggle. For the first time ever, she felt like dying was actually a better option than the struggle to live. She was not depressed by the misery, but the pain was truly torturous. Xie knew that she was struggling, so it panicked. It circled around her regularly and pulled her robes on occasion to get her attention. Gu Shijio wanted it to bite into her flesh until she finally became unconscious, but there was no way she could communicate with it. She never actually thought that she would one day be in such an agonizing state. She could neither live nor die, such an utter state of misery. What had she done to deserve this sort of torture that was worse than death? Yuan was indeed a terrible woman. How could she be so cruel? She wanted to make her suffer a slow, painful death before she finally took her life. If Gu Shijio died, the misery died with her. However, if she survived, she would definitely seek her revenge. Meanwhile, she tried her best to suppress her thoughts about Di Fui. Their relationship was completely over, so she could safely assume that he no longer cared about her. Chapter 23-28. The recovery Di Fui would no longer care if she lived or perished. It had been 4 hours since he last saw her in her wounded state. If he really cared about her condition, he would definitely find a way to come and see her. She had been waiting for him, but he never came. Perhaps he had truly given up on her. Overwhelmed by the disappointment, she suppressed the urge to cry and closed her eyes. The only noise Gu Shijio heard was the mere rustling of leaves in the wind. Suddenly, she noticed some movement in the air, like a sign of disturbance. Surprised, she quickly opened her eyes and looked for the source of the sound. Unfortunately, it was just a leopard, not the man that she was hoping to see. Disappointment filled her heart. She tried not to be hopeful, but as soon as she heard the noise, she immediately thought that it was him. Hush! She could feel something darting by her side. Someone had landed next to her. Gu Shijio opened her eyes, and the first thing that she saw was the face of Mr. Zhu. Seemingly injured, he staggered as he landed next to her. Their eyes met, and he smiled as soon as he saw the look in her eyes. He said, "Are you disappointed to see me?" In her paralyzed state, she could only stare at him. Mr. Zhu was not as carefree as he was when she first met him. Instead, he gritted his teeth a little in frustration as he said, "You should not keep your hopes on something that will never materialize. He will not show up for you. I went all the way to retrieve the cure for you and almost got myself in one of his traps while making my way out. I found the princess and forced her to give me the antitoxin." He quickly showed her the bottle of medicine like an achievement. "You are saved." Troubled, Gu Shijio was worried that the cure might not actually be a cure. Being the wicked lady she was, Princess Yuanyuan would definitely not surrender the cure to him so easily. However, she could not utter a single word. It became difficult even to move her eyes. Helplessly, she watched as Mr. Zhu rolled out a red pill from the bottle and forced it into her mouth. Gu Zijia's throat was too numb to swallow anything, but fortunately, as soon as he put the pill into her mouth, it melted right away and flowed smoothly into her stomach. A few moments later, Gu Shijio started coughing very violently and spat out 2 mouthfuls of fresh blood. Shocked, Mr. Zhu started thinking out loud, "Did the evil woman give me the wrong cure? It cannot be. I had to be sure that she was not cheating, so I stabbed her with the same ame sword and watched as she took out the pill in desperation. I had to steal the pill before she swallowed it just to make sure it was the right one. Was she risking her life just to trick me?" Gu Shijio almost coughed her lungs out, accompanied by mouthful after mouthful of blood. Luckily, her speech soon returned. "The cure? Perhaps. It is the cure. Maybe. There is a clash with the medicine that you have given me earlier." Mr. Zhu was shocked too. He sounded a little guilty as he asked, "How do you feel right now?" Gu Shijio was finally able to stop coughing. With a dizzy head and blurred eyes, she leaned against the chair and said faintly, "Let me have a rest." Mr. Zhu slowly closed in and stopped when he realized some movement in his surroundings. This is not good. Someone has come into the bamboo garden. Before Gu Shijio could say anything, Mr. Zhu suddenly waved his hand, and a door appeared. He then carried Xie in his arms and dragged Gu Shijio through the door. In the blink of an eye, they all landed in a desert, filled entirely with sand. The door in the air then disappeared. Gu Shijio was still in a daze. Chapter 23-29. The Recovery, 2. When she landed, the momentum caused her to spit another mouthful of blood. She looked around, but could only see an endless, desolate area of land filled with sand. Mr. Zhu was standing right next to her. With a sigh of relief, he said, "That was close. If he caught up with us, he would probably have killed me." Confused, Gu Shijio asked hoarsely, "Why?" Mr. Zhu sighed. "Well, when I went to see Yuanyuan, I had to take extreme measures to make her surrender the cure. I broke 2 of her ribs and made her spit some blood as well. Also, I might have cut her a little too deep with the ame sword. It was rather chaotic, I would say. When I left, I had carelessly alerted the guards at the door. I am sure that the Devil King is well aware of the mess by now. He cares for her very much, that I can tell. When he notices how severely injured she is, he will definitely want to kill me." No other man can come into the bamboo garden, except for the Devil King. Sometimes, he will come and take a stroll in the garden. So, it must be him. Luckily, I got us here in time. Gu Shijio did not know what to say. Di Fui was not bothered about her injury but would rush his way into the garden all because Yuan Yuan was bullied. Although she kept telling herself that she should not be mad at him, she could not stay calm any longer. Her entire being was filled with indignation. Irritated, she turned her head aside and spat out the remaining blood in her mouth. Utterly shocked, Mr. Zhu quickly approached her and offered to check her pulse. "Why do you keep spitting out blood? Come, let me examine your condition. I need to know if the cure is working." Gu Shijio had no strength to push him away. Calmly, she closed her eyes while trying to examine the condition of her injury from within. Her knowledge in the use of poisons had reached the acme of perfection due to her frequent practice and experiments all year round. Naturally, her body had developed immunity against many different poisons. It had been a very long while since she was poisoned to a life-threatening extent. After a brief examination, her relaxed expression was replaced by a frown. In fact, the toxins in her body had not been cured. Mr. Zhu moved his hand away as he spoke. "That is strange." Gu Shijio opened her eyes and saw Mr. Zhu deep in contemplation. He thought out loud, "Logically speaking, some of your bodily functions have returned after swallowing the pill, so that must be the right cure. However, I can see that your complexion is still very pale, and your eyes are rather greenish. The toxins have probably harmed your vitals. There must be some toxins remaining in your system. Fortunately, I still have another type of medicine that can help to detoxify all kinds of poison. You should try it." Her bodily functions had somewhat returned, so Gu Shijio could finally stand up for herself and say no to taking another risky experiment. Wait! Gu Shijio was experienced, so she could tell the ingredients in the bottle very easily, just with a sniff. She knew that it could serve as a cure, but it was not suitable for her condition at the moment. The so-called cure would only cause more harm than good. Gu Shijio was rather disappointed as she thought Mr. Zhu was a great man with great capabilities. How could he be so unreliable? The toxins in my body are not entirely detoxified. Yuan Yuan must have given you half of the cure. This half, however, is very deadly. It will serve as a catalyst to activate the remaining toxins in my body and push their effects to a greater extent. They will attack my blood circulation even more violently, thus allowing the blood to move through the blocked vessels, which is why I am able to move my body temporarily. If I fail to take the other half of the cure in time, the toxins will completely destroy my vitals by crushing every vein in my body. I will die in a pool of my own blood. Chapter 23:30, The Recovery, 3. Gu Shijio tried to control her breathing so that she could muster the strength to explain the severity of her condition to the man. Mr. Zhu was stupefied, as he never expected her condition to be so bad. "I did not know about that. You do not quite look like you are gravely ill." She took another deep breath before responding, "I am still alive, thanks to the terrible mess of medicines that you have so generously spoon-fed me with. Although they never did cure the toxins in my body, their effects counteracted with one another and managed to contain the toxins in my organs rather than releasing them into every inch of my circulatory system. All the toxic chemicals have come together into a mix. Right now, the mixture of toxins is contained in the Shen Shu acupoint, where my upper reservoir of qi is located." She bombarded him with a series of professional terms. Disbelieving, he studied her a few times. "I did not know that you are an expert in the use of poisons." Gu Shijio closed her eyes and avoided his compliment. She would be long dead as a result of his endless experiments if she were any less informed. She could not help but judging Mr. Zhu. "You know how to make the devil-quenching clothing and even increase its power, so you should be someone good in medical knowledge, right?" She somehow felt that the man was not entirely reliable. Mr. Zhu answered with a guilty conscience, "I am good with the use of devices. In terms of my theoretical knowledge of medicine, sometimes I make mistakes." Gu Shijio could not believe what he had just said. How could he offer his help when he was not quite sure about what he was doing? At the end of the day, It seemed that she could only rely on herself to get out of this mess. There were all kinds of toxins in her body at the moment. Some parts of her body were in pain. Others were itchy, and the rest were mostly numb. She barely had enough strength to move her arms and legs. She wished she could just rest while someone else took care of her. However, that was not an option. There was no one she could depend on but herself. She struggled to take a box of silver needles out of her storage bag. Impressed by her knowledge, Mr. Zhu watched intently as she took out a needle and put it down accurately on the affected acupuncture point. Her accuracy and precision in the acupuncture treatment were not affected by her current condition. She still maintained good control of the needles. At the tip of each needle, there would be dark purple blood oozing out from the hollow end. Surprisingly, after a series of acupuncture treatments, the colors finally returned to her pale complexion. She was driving the toxins out of her body through the needles. Mr. Zhu never knew about this detoxification technique. He was obviously impressed. Gu Shijio was still very weak, so she had to stop and catch a few breaths every now and then. Otherwise, her hands would be trembling. Mr. Zhu offered, "Let me help. Tell me where and I shall place the needle there." Gu Shijio kindly rejected his offer. Not even the slightest misjudgment was allowed in acupuncture treatment. Moreover, all the acupuncture points that she was targeting were her vital points. Each needle had to be placed at the correct depth into the skin. A small misplacement would cost her life. With his apparent lack of practice, she was not confident to let him help. Mr. Zhu was slightly offended. Due to his large ego, he thought he had already mastered the entire technique after watching a few steps. He insisted, "Don't worry. I can do it." Swiftly, he reached out and grabbed the remaining needles. Gu Shijio looked at him fiercely in the eye. It was scary enough to warn him to back away. He was never afraid of anything, but for the first time, he hesitated and finally stopped. He was intimidated by how dominant she was toward him. A few moments later, there were already a dozen needles all over Gu Zhijia's body. She could finally heave a sigh of relief and have a moment of rest. She seemed to be getting better even though it was at a rather slow pace. "How do you feel?" Mr. Zhu finally asked. "I only managed to remove the toxins that are irrelevant to my current condition." Then she paused to take a breath. "I will need your help in getting a few herbs for me." Mr. Zhu listened to her attentively. "What kind?" "Shui Qing Hong Luo Feng flower." Gu Shijio named a total of 8 herbs. "What are they for?" "To cure the toxins in my body. These herbs must be freshly dried. I would like to have them in a day." These herbs were not very rare. They could be easily found at different corners throughout the Devil Kingdom. Mr. Zhu agreed immediately. He took a look at Gu Shijio and the amount of needles that she had all over her body. Surely she would have to stay immobile for a while. Concerned for her safety, he offered, "This is the most dangerous place in all of the kingdom. It houses many ferocious beasts. It is not safe for you to be alone. May I offer you a wizardry barrier? I know that you will not be able to outrun the animals, so this barrier will keep them away from you." Soon, he raised his arms and cast a spell. An invisible barrier appeared and surrounded Gu Shijio. It was about 3 meters high and 2 meters wide, spacious enough to give Gu Shijio full protection. Anxiously, Gu Shijio gasped for air before she called his idea off. "Wait, you will be away for at least a day. The barrier is fine at night, but when the sun comes out, the heat will turn the barrier into a steamer. Without any ventilation, I will die from suffocation under the sun." Mr. Zhu was puzzled. "What should we do?" With a sigh, Gu Shijio then answered, "There are some huge stones right there. Can you carry them over for me and place them according to my instructions? I can make an array formation to keep myself safe." Mr. Zhu was astonished. He had not expected that. "You have studied about array formations?" "Briefly." Mr. Zhu hummed and hawed in surprise for a brief moment. He then proceeded to move the stones. From her chair, Gu Zhijia gave him clear instructions. Meanwhile, Mr. Zhu did exactly as instructed. As he was an efficient person, everything was aligned in a very brief time. As an expert, he knew about all kinds of array formations. However, he would usually protect any formations with his spiritual power. Therefore, when he was weak, the array formation would generally reflect his condition and become just as weak. He had no idea what type of array formation Gushijio was creating. The arrangement of the stones was all in a muddle. However, as soon as he dropped the last stone, the magic began. Instantly, the stones turned into a great rocky hill that was surrounded by fog. The place had become completely unrecognizable. Mr. Zhu was not in the array formation. Driven by curiosity, he decided to venture into the unknown and was immediately lost in the fog. After a few steps, he started to experience some hallucinations. In his blurred vision, he saw many troops attacking him at the same time. Shocked, he quickly braced himself for a fight. Suddenly, he heard Gu Zijia's voice. She was giving him a hint. Take the off-road. Pass the barrier. He knew what she was telling him to do. He did as told and was immediately guided to the core of the formation, where he finally saw Gushijio. He was very impressed. He never knew about the existence of such an impressive array formation. Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. Intensely, Mr. Zhu stared at Gushijio, as if she were a monster that one should not cross paths with. She took 2 steps towards her and said, I did not know that you are so knowledgeable in the use of array formations. Gushijio saw him approaching and was immediately alarmed. You! Mr. Zhu stopped next to her chair and gazed at her firmly in the eye. I will retrieve the herbs that you desperately need. I will also teach you how to make the devil-quenching clothing and its upgrading techniques, unconditionally. All you need is to promise me something. Gushijio was careful in making promises. What is that? She asked. Chapter 23:32, The Recovery, 5. Gu Zijia's intuition told her that the offer must be something unreasonable and illogical, a crazy idea for sure. Hence, she needed to know what it was before making any commitment. Please accept me as your disciple. Ah, I would like to have you as my master. I want to learn about array formations, the use of poisons, the art of healing, and the facial disguise technique. He named his request very seriously. Gushijio was speechless. She had the feeling that Mr. Zhu must be the most arrogant, annoying, and unpredictable man in all of the Devil Kingdom. Hence, his request was rather odd. Was he still the same man that she first saw? Since he already made his offer so generously and openly, Gushijio did not feel the need to beat about the bush. She was direct with him. She promised to accept him as her disciple only on the basis of his performance. For their initial deal, it was easy for her to make a commitment as all they agreed on was an exchange of knowledge. However, she needed to think it through carefully if he intended to become her disciple. If she accepted his request, he would become her first ever disciple. She did not want to bring shame upon her name by having a disciple with an awful personality. Swiftly, Mr. Zhu created a door in the air and leaped into another space. Having observed this spell a few times, Gushijio finally noticed that it was actually a transmitting door. Once activated, he could travel to anywhere in the Devil Kingdom as he pleased. Just as how he sent her to the Garden of Blossoming Flowers and this time to the desert. The man was said to be the most mysterious man ever known, who would come and go swiftly like a shadow. It was all because of this transmitting door, which was the best escape route anyone could ever have. Meanwhile, Gushijio lay in the array formation, contemplating about her injury. She knew that even with the herbs that Mr. Zhu retrieved, she could only make a pill to contain the toxins in her body from spreading. Nevertheless, they would still be in her body. To eradicate it, she would need the other half of the cure from Yuan. After the mess that Mr. Zhu left behind in the princess residence, the guards there would definitely become stricter. Moreover, Di Fui would be there with her to take care of her injury. Mr. Zhu was determined to make another brave attempt to barge into the princess residence. There was no way he could get any closer to Yuan without first having to face Di Fui. Thus, Gushijio needed to find another way. As time ticked on, her thoughts became more intertwined. Soon, the moon slowly faded away, silhouetted against the sun on the other side of the horizon. The first faint streaks of dawn started emerging in the east. The temperature in the desert rose quickly as soon as the sun appeared. At night, she could still feel the cold despite being under a layer of covers. When the sun came up, even the thinnest dress was too much for her in the heat. Although she managed to drive some of the toxins out of her body, the remaining toxins were still lingering in her system. The pain remained. She could barely move and might as well have been paralyzed. Under the torrid sun, she started to bath in her sweat and was starting to get very uncomfortable. The array formation was able to keep out the wild animals in the desert, but not the sun. As the sun beat down on her, she slowly became dehydrated. She licked her dry lips and decided to reach out for the bottle of water in her storage bag. Unfortunately, the bottle slipped from her hand, and the water fell onto the ground, spilling every drop onto the sand. Helplessly, Gu Shijio started to believe that she might already be at the end of her life. All of a sudden, the water on the ground started to boil. A giant, fiery red snake emerged from the sand. It was about 10 feet long, but with a head as big as a basket. Right now, it was only 3 feet away from Gu Shijio. As soon as it emerged, it stretched its body and stood tall. Their eyes met, and they continued to gaze at one another. Chapter 23:33. His arrival. Gu Shijio closed her eyes. Her array formation was able to keep out the animals in the desert that traveled on land. Unfortunately, it was not suitable for keeping out hideous creatures that burrowed through the sand. Unless she could teleport, there was no way could survive its attack. Gone were the days when these animals barely posed any threat to her. Under the current circumstances, even a child could easily kill her by stabbing her. What chance did she stand against the giant snake before her eyes? Xie responded instinctively to the threatening situation. It gave the snake a growl and was ready to fight if needed. It was only a cub, nothing bigger than a 2-month-old puppy. As compared to the giant snake, their sizes were of great disparity. It was like a ping-pong ball next to a basketball. The snake was not even bothered by the cub. All its attention was locked on Gu Shijio. It moved its body a little backward and expanded its mouth to the widest, seemingly ready to fight. Little Xie was desperate. With a bark, it raced forward and leaped onto the back of the snake. Swiftly, it took a bite and attacked its weakest point. Pang! The moment it bit onto the snake, it immediately bounced back. The scales of the snake were as solid as a metal shield. Irritated, the snake swept its body across the ground and forced the little cub far away, sending it into one of the corners in the array formation. Little Xie knew nothing of the structure of the array formation. In a blur, it found itself amid the boulders. The snake did not give the cub another look. It raised its head and hissed. Then, it made a spring at Gu Shijio. Swoosh! A glimpse of a 7-colored ray flashed by like a streak of laser light. A spark flared in the air and was headed toward the mouth of the snake. The snake was caught off guard by the 7-colored ray. Its mouth was all tied up. At the same time, it was being pulled away forcibly by an unknown force. The snake fell right into the array formation and got lost into its defensive illusions. It was aggrieved for losing the prey that it almost had. Before it could launch its fury at the unknown attacker, it was blinded by another streak of 7-colored light before getting hit head-on. The giant snake was killed. 2 different streaks of 7-colored rays took its life with its head completely smashed. It did not even see who the attacker was before it died. There was only a blurry figure of a man in red. That was all. With her eyes closed, Gu Shijio was already waiting to die when the interruption happened. Alarmed, she quickly opened her eyes and looked around. She was able to see everything that happened in the array formation, as she was the one who created it. Little Xie was running around aimlessly, desperately trying to escape. On the other side, a red figure around the snake caught her attention. The red figure was moving at great speed, so she did not quite see his face with her blurred vision. Her heart started to throb. She pursed her lips into a thin line as soon as the red figure got right in front of her. The sun was too bright, so Gu Shijio could not even see his face. However, she already knew who he was. It was Di Fui, the Devil King. He was finally here. Chapter 23:34. His arrival too. Was he here to look for Mr. Zhu? Was he trying to get revenge for what he did to the little princess? Perhaps Gu Shijio had somehow saved his life without even knowing. She wanted to sit up but was too weak to do so. With barely any strength left, she decided to stay still on the chair. She acknowledged his arrival with an intense gaze. "Prince Nian Ma," she greeted smilingly. Her voice sounded calm, though hoarse. "Are you here for Yuan Yuan?" Before she could finish her sentence, he grabbed onto her wrist firmly and said, "I am here for you." Gu Shijio kept quiet. "Why didn't you tell me when you were poisoned?" Di Fui was irritated. She could tell from his grip that his palms were sweaty. Gu Shijio wanted to pull her hand back but was too weak even to do so. Blurred by a sudden blackout, she could feel her head spinning. All of a sudden, she felt a sudden rush of blood to her throat. She had to try hard to suppress the urge to spit the blood. With a few deep breaths, she regulated her breathing but still felt dizzy. "Don't move." Di Fui sounded worried. He continued with a rough and harsh demand, "Put the past behind aside for now. Let me have a look at your injury." Gu Shijio stayed very still with her eyes closed. She did not resist as he proceeded to read her pulse. She knew herself too well. Although she kept telling herself that they should no longer be in touch, a part of her still hoped for him to stay. She would not say no to him. She also knew that even though he had found himself a new love, he would never put her in danger. Moreover, she had absolute trust in his medical skills. Even though he was not as good as her, he was, at least, more reliable than Mr. Zhu. "Where is the wound?" he asked attentively. After a while, Di Fui finally let go of her wrist. "My lower left rib." Di Fui realized that in order for him to examine the wound, he had to lift her robes. "Pardon me." He puckered up his lips and continued to lift her clothes. He then gasped in astonishment at the sight of her wound. He could barely hide the surprised expression on his face. The wound was surrounded by a splash of colors, circle after circle. There were greenish-purple, bloody red, and mustard yellow circles. It was surely a strange sight. He applied some medicine on the wound, but it did not help to target the toxins nor heal the open wound. He had never seen this sort of poison before. He was certainly frustrated as he never thought that her injury could be so severe. He realized that she was hurt, but the severity was not clear the other day. He had thought that she only suffered from a minor cut that she could easily heal on her own. Di Fui was well aware of her abilities, so he did not think to look for her earlier. Also, he knew that her body had developed immunity against many different poisons and toxins. Hence, it was very unlikely for her to be poisoned. He could not have been more mistaken. Did Yun Qingluo really bear a deep grudge against her? Why did she use such a fatal poison? He thought that Yun Qingluo was only momentarily possessed by the immense desire for Gu Zijia's Xie and the baby. However, from the look of the wound, he could tell that Yun Qingluo had been planning this for a while. She did not only want her dead, she wanted to make sure that it was a slow, painful death. He took a look at Gu Zijia's face. She still looked as pale as a sheet. Her dark circles stood out with a circle of green. Her chapped lips were in shades of purple. She still did not look like the old Gu Shijio because there was still a little makeup on her face to disguise her appearance. Perhaps he could not really examine her actual skin tone. Di Fui washed away the disguise with a special liquid, revealing her true face. He gasped in horror as the signs of her condition were even more apparent. There was no moisture left in her chapped lips. Her complexion was not only pale, but there were also faint shades of greenish-yellow spreading across her skin. Her lashes were not as thick as before, and they started to turn yellow. It was like a wilting plant. Chapter 23:35. His arrival, 3. Di Fui could tell that she could barely hold herself together. There were many different kinds of incompatible antitoxins in her Bodas system right now, complementing and resisting one another at the same time. She was in a very critical condition, and the toxins could kill her anytime. Have you tried to cure the toxins on your own? He had to find out more before giving her the treatment that she desperately needed. Gu Shijio kept her eyes closed and said, Mr. Zhu has given me a few different doses. Those were not suitable for your illness. You are a doctor yourself. Couldn't you tell? I was not able to move. Di Fui exclaimed in frustration, that bastard. A sudden regret filled his heart for not being there for her in time. Otherwise, she would not have gone through the suffering that she did. Do you have any water? She was very thirsty. Di Fui took out a water sack from his storage space. She nervously moistened her lips with her tongue and reached out for the sack. The broken water bottle caught Di Fui's attention. He then offered, you barely have any strength. Let me help you. He helped her up and gently put her head on his shoulders so that he could feed her the water. Gu Zijia's keen sense of smell was unaffected, so she could still perceive the faint scent of his body when they got close. Her heart raced a little. Eagerly, she tried to ignore his scent and focused on the water instead. Di Fui had his arms around her body, once again. The proximity stifled his heart. He did not mind the hideous look on her face. She would always be the woman whom he so preciously cherished. There was hardly any chance for them to get so close. He was not even sure when the next time would be. Concerned, he noticed the sweats that broke out on her forehead. Are you in great pain? He asked. After downing some water, the pain became more tolerable. Better, she reassured. Di Fui opened a huge umbrella that could finally provide some shade under the flaming sun. Her body was still in pain, but it was more bearable now. Before this, the pain was so bad that she thought her flesh was being sliced off piece by piece. Di Fui noticed that her body would occasionally contort itself due to the pain. If the same condition were to happen to any other girl, the girl would already be screaming and shouting in extreme discomfort. He knew that she was still in pain, even though she said she was feeling better now. He could not begin to comprehend how painful it could have been for Gu Shijio. Di Fui was overwhelmed by a sudden urge to kill Yun Qingluo. Shout out if you are in pain. Don't try to hold it back. Why are you acting so strong in front of me? Di Fui was annoyed by her stubbornness. Gu Shijio opened her eyes and said calmly, there is no need for that. I am not acting strong. She did not even let out a sound when a greater wave of pain tortured her yesterday. Di Fui did not know what to say, but the look in his eyes darkened in disappointment. He knew that she would only show her weakness in front of the man that she truly loved. She would definitely want him around to take care of her right now instead of Di Fui. With that being said, had she lost all affection for him? Or was she still in love with him? His heart sank, but it was not the time to discuss their relationship. He reached out for her hand and put their palms together. I will help you to detoxify the remaining toxins in your body. The process will be quite painful, but I believe that you will be able to take it. Gu Shijio had faith in his medical knowledge. He could perform some special recovery techniques in the past, which proved that he was gifted. Moreover, it would be better to detoxify the toxins in her body with the use of spiritual power. It would be more effective than the acupuncture technique. However, it would require someone with a great level of spiritual power and control to perform the detoxification. She was too weak to perform the detoxification with her spiritual power, and also too doubtful to trust Mr. Zhu. Gu Shijio dared not put her life at risk in the hands of the unreliable bamboo man. Luckily, Di Fui showed up in time to treat her injury with his spiritual power. Relieved, she agreed almost instantaneously, all right. Chapter 2336. His arrival. 4. The bamboo chair was too small to perform the treatment. So, Di Fui offered her a couch instead and slowly carried her away from the chair. With her eyes closed, Gu Shijio tried hard to ignore the warmth in his embrace. She should not have the longing for something that was no longer hers to claim. On the couch, she could not even sit up on her own. Di Fui supported her with a U-shaped cushion to hold her up. He then offered her a red-colored pill and put it close to her lips. Take this, he demanded. Gu Shijio was somewhat reluctant. She had enough pills for the day. Affected by the unpleasant experience, she tilted her head to avoid the pill. There is no need for another pill. Are you afraid that I will poison you? Di Fui did not sound pleased. Why would she feel that way? Gu Shijio had never doubted him before. Although he was no longer in love with her, she was sure that he would never do anything to kill her. Even without love, their relationship would not fall into bitter animosity. She was confident about that. You will never do so, she answered firmly. Di Fui then answered delightfully, not bad. I thought that you had the need to guard against me more than ever. Gu Shijio was not interested in discussing the topic. What about Hao Heir? She asked. He is well. I will not do anything against my own son. Concerned, Gu Shijio added, what if he is not your son? I will be sure to make him suffer in the cruelest way possible, he said without hesitation. Gu Shijio kept quiet. She should not tell him about it then. Di Fui continued to offer her the pill. Take it. It will not trigger any of the toxins in your body. It will help you to recover by healing your nervous system. He then put the pill next to her lips. Her system already had more medicine than she should need. Hence, another pill would not make any difference. The red pill had a rather shimmering surface, making it look like something only the noble would possess. Also, it smelled heavenly. Gu Shijio could not tell its content based on the scent, but she believed that it must be something precious, as seen from all of Di Fui's possessions. She then put the pill into her mouth. When his hand accidentally touched her lips, she could feel a sense of electricity flowing through his body. His heart raced in excitement. With a deep breath, he tried to calm the butterflies in his stomach. Then he offered her some water. She took a sip to help her swallow better. Being thirsty, Di Fui gulped down some water from the same sack that she drank from. Bewildered, Gu Shijio stared at him. Di Fui noticed her gaze and asked, Do you want some more? He then passed the sack back to her. Wouldn't it be an indirect kiss if they drank from the same bottle? It would not be so appropriate to share, knowing that they had broken up. Gu Shijio thus turned her head away and rejected his offer. No, I am not thirsty. Di Fui was smart enough to understand her concern. The look in his eyes darkened. Was she really that eager to draw a solid line between them? He wanted to question her but decided not to, considering how weak she was. He sat opposite her on the couch and pulled her hands over. I will help you to put the pill into effect, and after that, I will proceed with the detoxification. Gu Shijio had spent too much time lying on the chair. A massage would be helpful to help her warm up her stiff muscles. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.